Welcome to Rapture Recovery Big Book Step Study Program of Action. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You have really started a program of action. If you've completed all the workbook pages, you're going to see how they are a building block off of each other. We started out in the prefaces. We went to the forwards. We built up our confidence in this program, in this literature. We took a pit stop at the doctor's opinion, who validated our disease. We went to Bill's story. We heard our first example of experience, strength, and hope. Then we spent some time in There Is a Solution and really dug just a little bit deeper about what the solution is. The solution is the program that's laid out in this big book, and it's also the fellowship to support the solution. So now we're going to take a pit stop in more about alcoholism. So go ahead and read the literature. So read more about alcoholism. I know. How can we read more about alcoholism when we have read so much so far? But there is still more. There is still more they want us to have. We are still in step 1 here. We are admitting that we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Part of more about alcoholism does start discussing the spiritual solution, which is step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. My power greater than myself, my higher power is God. So what we're going to do here and more about alcoholism is we're going to talk about how alcoholism is progressive. They're going to give you all kinds of examples of alcoholism. When I read these examples, I've been every single one of these people at some point in my life. There was some point in my life where I was that person. I'm not saying that that's where you are. You may not be able to relate to any of these people right here, but that doesn't unqualify you for this program of recovery. Guest speakers all over the world reference the 12 steps in this book. So there's no qualification here, but it is just giving you more information. The reason why they're giving you more information is because they want you to be in acceptance of who you're sitting around. You need to understand that this is a program of recovery, and it's not a program of recovery for just one type of drinker. The only requirement is for us to have a desire to stop drinking. So your fellowship is going to be put together of people of all kinds of drinking histories. Just because somebody has a worse drinking history doesn't mean yours can't get there. Maybe God's using that as a lesson of you can get there. I've heard so many times, well, I haven't gotten arrested yet. And I'm just thinking, but how many activities have you done that are arrest worthy? Probably a lot. Who in the world came up with the idea that the cops are the determination if we're actually alcoholics or not? But we've done a lot of work, so we've gotten past that if you've done the work up till now, right? We've understood that there is some kind of drink inventory We've created some sort of environment that kind of fueled our alcoholism. We've created an environment that kind of supported this alcoholic journey that we're on. And so now we're trying to clear the wreckage of the past, right? So in more about alcoholism, they also talk about, your spiritual life. And this chapter comes right after There's a Solution, where they tell us that the solution is outlined in this literature and it's also supported by our fellowship. Okay? So when we look at these activities here, you can do whatever you want, right? Hear me. You can do whatever you want. Alcoholism is progressive. You may want to take this week to make a couple phone calls to people that you've met in meetings and ask them about their alcoholic journeys. Ask them about their drink inventories, because that's what they're giving us here in this chapter more about alcoholism, is they're giving us some mini drink inventories. Remember, I had you do your drink inventory way back in the doctor's opinion, okay? So if you need a relating point, you should have one by this point. If you don't, then you need to go back to the doctor's opinion, and look at that inventory and dive a little deeper here. The first question that we're going to sit in for a few minutes is, when did you try to be a normal drinker, and what were your methods? These are always the fun shares, right? When you go to the fellowship, these are the fun shares. It's what we call drunkalogs, right? Problem puking, right? Because when you're in a meeting and you're sharing about your alcoholic journey instead of your sobriety recovery journey, it's okay, because everybody needs Me Too moments, right? And everybody needs a giggle. And everyone in our recovery program has some point tried to normalize their drinking and not had a lot of success with it. And we've even had people come into the program and then they think that they got the tools from the program. They're going to try to go do their normal drinking some more, and then they'll come back into the program because they know that we have a program of recovery that works, and it comes with a club, right? So who wouldn't want this? And there's no financial obligation. Are you kidding me? Like, the program that has the most success in the medical community has absolutely no charge whatsoever. It is just your willingness to be honest. Amazing. Love it. So for my answer here, when did you try to be a normal drinker? What's the methods? All the time. When I very first came into this program, I was excited. I was like, now I'm not willing to stop drinking altogether for the rest of my life, but if I can at least take these principles and learn how to just drink 2 beers, that would be flipping amazing. Or just 1 glass of wine. Right? I did all kinds of drinking. I was a big weekend warrior is what we call it. We know it. We know where you try to be sober during the week because you got your career in a God spot and you've had a couple of slip-ups there. And so you just really got to get it together during the week. But on the weekends, you are a weekend warrior. We've done all the kinds of substitution. Like maybe there's a type of alcohol that will not lead me to this. We've probably sought out some outside accountability. We were honest with somebody at some point that we were having a little bit of a struggle. Could they help us, give us some ideas, some accountability? I did all of those. Our question 2, when do you experience the obsession of the escape? I put every day. I'm always thinking about when the next drink is going to be, even if I'm trying to control my drinking. And it will increase physically to get the same effect. So just looking at your physical body and the way that we physically intake alcohol, that's why you don't get the same feeling off 2 beers anymore. Then you move to 4 beers, then you move to 6 beers, then you move to 8 beers. It takes more alcohol to produce the same effect. So when you're doing alcoholic drinking, that's why you're moving to the higher alcohol content beverages, because you're trying to manipulate how many drinks you're doing, but you're increasing the alcohol at the same time. Very important information to take into consideration for people that say, I only drank 2 beers, but they were hot drop and rolls, right? Like they were the highest alcohol content you could get. Well, I only had 2 drinks a day, but they were straight vodka. Like these are things that we just have to get vigorously honest about. Question 3, what were the 5 worst things you did while you were drinking? So this is where they're talking about jaywalker, and they are actually isolating behavior. You'll see that the word behavior in this paragraph is capitalized because you'll hear this time and time again. Our step 1 talks about alcohol, but step 2 through 12 really do not address alcohol. They address our behavior, our body, our mind, our spirit. They address everything else besides alcohol itself, right? So what were the 5 worst things you did when you were drinking? This is a good tool. I know you don't want to write this down. You don't have to tell anybody if you don't want to. I would highly recommend you to tell someone. You can tell somebody in your 5th step if you want to. You can tell everybody in your group environment you're doing this big book step study with. You can just tell one person. Here's the tool. If you're thinking about drinking 1 drink, I highly advise you to review this list of things that were the worst things that happened, right? Because you'll eventually end up back on one of them, right? It may not happen with the first glass of wine that you control and you're able to calm your obsession of the mind for like a week until you have 2. But eventually alcoholism is progressive. They told us this. We've had many chapters on it. So we have to sit in acceptance that these things may happen. Now, all 5 of my things are all accidents. Right? Aren't all 5 of your things accidents? They weren't premeditated because when we're alcoholically drinking, we do things that we would have never done if we weren't alcoholically drinking. Okay, they're not my fault, They're just little tiny hiccups. But God shows up because He's showing up that my patterns of behavior, of coping with my life, equaled all these mistakes, right? I alcoholically drank, I mood altered, I was unaware of what I was doing, and when I did these things, they had consequences that I never thought would have happened, right? And we see this in sobriety as well. Unfortunately, we see people come in, they get sober, they have good programs, they relapse, and there is some extravagant situation that happens, and sometimes they make it back to us and sometimes they don't. And it's very, very unfortunate. But what are the 5 worst things you did while drinking? Well, one time I accidentally fender bendered a car in a grocery store parking lot. I did not realize that I ran into their bumper, like literally did not realize it. And I went home. And in turn, that turned into this big hit and run, right? It was a work van, so the work couldn't be responsible for it. It was just a very challenging situation. The problem here was I never really realized I did it. So, Imogene, could that happen to you again? Could you mood alter, have 2 glasses of wine, really know that you need more, get in the grocery store to go get another bottle of wine, and accidentally run into somebody's bumper? Yes. That could happen again. Okay, I drove the car in the ditch. Okay, that was real exciting. So, again, all of this is an accident, right? So, I can't even tell you what level of mood altered I was at this point, but I tried to make a U-turn, and I didn't make it very correctly, and my car ended up in a ditch. And the cops had to get involved, right? And God did for me what I can't do for myself. I have no idea why I did not get a ticket for this. This is definitely God's deliverance. I had to get a tow truck to come pull the car out of the ditch. And even the tow truck guy's like, I cannot believe that this cop is not taking you. Like, this actually makes no sense at all. But again, could that happen to me? Yes. Could I miss a turn at night while driving, while being intoxicated? Absolutely. That could. The thing that I already shared with you before, blacked out in the woods, that ended up with the police as well because, my husband and my kids didn't know where I was. Just an accident. I mean, my husband and I got in a big fight, so I put a bottle of wine in one of those closed water bottles, went on a walk. I went to sit in the woods to finish the drink so I could go back home because my husband wasn't letting me drink in the house, and I just blacked out in the woods. Not real exciting, but a lot of cops got involved. There was a breathalyzer. Could that happen again? Yeah, possibly. Here's the big one. I got involved in other people's drama, right? This is huge. Other people's drama became my avenue almost for my alcoholism. I needed to hang around people that were going through nasty divorces, were having bad things happen to them because they were wanting to drink at the level that I was wanting to drink. And I got very involved in certain situations that I should have never been involved in. I sought companionship in relationships that I should not seek companionship in. Could that happen again? Absolutely. Am I going to need a friend to accept the drinking that I'm doing? Absolutely, because my husband is never going to be that person. So these are the 5, I would say, core things that happened to me. A mom of 3 young kids, it's not that dramatic, but God was doing for me what I can't do for myself. And He was saving me every single time. Okay, God saved me every single time, okay? But now I'm aware of those actions were not premeditated. So it was challenging for me to take on the responsibility of the consequences because I was unaware of all this stuff that was actually happening to me. So that goes back to the story about the jaywalker. How can someone keep doing this? Because I'm unaware. I'm unaware of the pattern. I'm unaware of the consequence. I'm unaware of my action that led to the consequence, right? Because I'm just trying to seek some relief from my life. But all of a sudden in recovery, God is going to create a life that I do not want to escape. I do not want to escape. The cost becomes too great to relapse because there's too much to gain in my sobriety. Okay, thank you.